Well, at a young age, I realized that I had an interest in coaching. And that was, partly growing up in a basketball family. My father played basketball, and, he chose not to coach. He went into higher education and education at all levels. He was an English, literature, philosophy, a poetry teacher. He authored 19 books on writing and composition. He was the director, co-founder of the Bay Area Writing Project at Cal Berkeley, which was a program. It's still in existence now. There's 200 writing centers throughout the country, but it started at Cal Berkeley, and co-founded with my father was a person named Jim Gray, another outstanding educator. But I think being, in a family that had an appreciation for basketball, my three older brothers all played as well. And so the love of the game, even though I was late to basketball, I started with soccer and baseball and then came over to basketball, um, you know, kind of, in my own time when I felt comfortable, transitioning to basketball full time. So I think that led to, experiences of being at summer camps and working my high school coaches' summer camps and having success coaching, younger players, fifth grade, sixth graders, seventh graders, winning championships at these camps. And then in college, I started writing letters to Bobby Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, Gene Cady, Jerry Tarkanian, a lot of other coaches that, weren't as high profile, like Jim Brandenburg, Hank Egan, some assistant coaches, Mike Lagarza, who's an assistant at the University of San Diego, Mike Dunlap, who was an assistant at Iowa under George Raveling, later at USC, Tim Gergovich, who was the assistant at UNLV for Jerry Tarkanian and kind of the orchestrator of their defense. He was really like the Buddy Ryan of the Running Rebels when it came to his expertise on defense. So I started just asking, this was old school, before email, before the bombardment of the electronic media and being able to DM people and reach out through different, social platforms. So it was the old write a letter, put a stamp, get the address, and put it in the mailbox. And surprisingly, the majority of the coaches wrote back, and I was asking for, the steps I should take if I someday wanted to be a head coach, to be able to walk in their shoes. And so it was everything from camps and clinics I should attend to the books I should read, and just their overall kind of advice on, studying the coaches I respected and seeing the different approaches to the game. And then eventually, building your own philosophy in terms of what you're going to be comfortable with for the opportunity, or so when you get the opportunity to be a head coach at whatever level it is, you're further down the line in your thinking and approach and the style that you want to have as a coach.
So I'd like to take this moment to ask you, what advice would you give to someone looking to get into coaching now?
Really good question. I think in a similar way, the important thing is to, seek out the coaches that you respect and, visiting practices. That's ultimately what I did after writing letters to those coaches. I went back and spent time at Indiana. I couch surfed with some of the team managers as well as the players, Cree Smith and Brian Sloan, who were playing for Bob Knight on the Hoosiers team at that point, let me crash on their couch. Craig Hartman was a manager, later an assistant. He let me stay with him as well. And Ron Felling, who was an assistant coach, stayed at his place. And I was there about 3 weeks and was able to take notes, get into the locker room, pregame, halftime, postgame. And it was a, transformative experience to be able to watch Coach Knight on a daily basis in practice for 3 weeks. And then to sit on the bench for their home games. I was able to, be in the timeouts. And so I learned a great deal, also inspired me in terms of, I knew after the trip to Indiana and Purdue, because I also visited Purdue for a couple of weeks and did the same thing there in terms of attending practices and sitting behind the bench at home games with the Boilermakers and, staying with some of the assistant coaches. Kevin Stallings let me stay at his place. And there were some managers there, Gary Harsh, Alan Major, some other friends that I've now known for 34 years that took care of me back then in 1988, and then I applied, to the schools that I really had an interest in attending and working, under those coaches. And I was hired by Coach Katie in 1988 as a graduate assistant. So he opened the door to me 33 years ago. So I think going out and observing practices and, taking notes and asking good questions, being an expert listener and using the ears and the eyes is really important. And then there's the practical aspect of that from the standpoint that you develop, relationships with coaches, assistants, and head coaches that are in the industry who are already off and running in terms of working at the craft of teaching and coaching. And that's how we learn, and then ultimately you have to, stay true to what you believe in, but that comes with time. First you just want to study and learn, find the Mr. Miyagi's, find the mentors, the wise old owls, or even some young Turks, some young coaches that are blazing a trail. And I think that's what I would advise, young people that are interested in coaching. You want to learn first, and then down the line, you crystallize your own thinking, your own philosophy, your own approaches, things that fit, things that you have conviction about in terms of the way you want your teams to play.